Okay, so this week we're going to talk about motivation and compensation. So specifically, I'm going to start with reviewing this compensation handout. You have two articles that I recommend that you read. I'm going to talk about briefly a couple of things in the articles. I've included an extra article just for your own knowledge. And then lastly, you'll have a quiz at the end of everything. So let's start with the handout, but just so one thing in this area that I like to touch on for sales management is not just from the management standpoint, but a lot of you are going to be, you're in the process of looking for jobs. And so I like to touch on things for you to think about, and just, consider as you're looking for a job, maybe things that you wouldn't have thought about. Anyway, I'll get into all that. The first thing we're going to do is look at this handout, and we will go through these areas in more detail. But with the handout, so there's definitions on the second page of all of these things. Well, on the second, third, and then I can't get the fourth blank page to go away. So some of them I'm just going to highlight because we're going to get into, but your compensation plan overall, or what you determine to be the compensation plan, basically is made up of salary, commission, bonus, contest. So what I really like about this handout is this graphic. Let me make this a little smaller, but it gives a really good idea of when to use each type of compensation. So you can see if you're calling on established accounts, then you want to have some salary aspect and commission. If you're new accounts, you probably want to use across the board. If it's a salesperson that's more of like in store doing merchandising, so like setting up displays, which is not something that, you and I probably aspire to be doing, but you'd probably have salary. If it's a more of a technical role, probably salary. Customer service, I would say on here it says salary. It's probably salary, bonus, contest. Selling or really pushing a particular product, it may be 100% commission, bonus, contest. When I think of that particular area, I think of more like door-to-door kind of sales or contractors. But for most of you, what you're going to find is some mix of salary, commission, and maybe a bonus or contest or both. So talked about compensation plans. Salary is obviously that money that you are getting, consistently every month or 2 weeks or however often you're paid. So it doesn't vary based on how much you sell, but it's just, the flat salary, for lack of a better word, that you get. Commission can be determined different ways. So if it's a percent of sales, so based on sales volume, if it's based on certain behaviors or metrics, that's one thing that you have to determine. But with commission, one thing you want to remember from a management standpoint is that however you reward behavior, so what I mean by that is, like, if I set the commission based off of sales volume, that's how my salespeople are going to behave. So they may be a little more aggressive or pushy if I set the sales volume too high because they're trying to match that. They're trying to reach their commission or their bonus, whatever it may be. A quota is the number you need to achieve for your commission. There's obviously different sales contests. Those can be over a quarter. It could be, a week push. It could be a day push for generally used with maybe a new product or something that the company is wanting to see more sales in a specific area. And then we'll talk about the rest of these within the slides. So your compensation beyond your salary can come in a lot of different forms. And we're going to talk about each of these. So let's start with the expense account. So there are multiple types of expense accounts, and often if you are in outside sales, your selling expenses may be over $25,000. So it's important to understand when you have an expense account what's required to get reimbursed. Because if you're putting out money, you need to understand how you get the money back. And oftentimes, you'll have like a corporate credit card or something like that that covers your expenses, but you want to understand what's allowable. So direct reimbursement, it means everything that's allowable and reasonable is going to be covered. With limited reimbursement, there's a certain amount that will be reimbursed. So for example, let's say that you have a company car and they pay for X amount of gas or this percentage, 80% of your gas. Then that's a limited reimbursement that it's predetermined. Or let's say you're in outside sales and they don't give you a car, but they give you $600 a month for car and maintenance. So that's, and gas, that's the limited amount that you get. And then with no reimbursement, that would be, I often think of like a realtor. Excuse me, I just had a huge yawn. Where, if you've ever bought a house, they cover the advertising, they may cover pictures taken, etc., things that they offer like at open houses, etc. And you're not paying for that, but as a result, they get, a high commission off of what the sales of the houses are. So with bonuses, things that you should think about is what's the time frame? So is it a month? Is it, yearly? Often it's recommended that you keep commission and bonuses when they're paid into a shorter time frame because it's more motivating for salespeople or for people in general when you can see the results of what you're doing sooner rather than later. It keeps motivating people. So if I, perform away in a certain month and then, my next paycheck 2 weeks later, after the month, I see, the results of what I've done, that's going to be a more motivating thing than if I drag it out to like a yearly bonus. And so think for yourself about different types of bonuses. So sometimes a bonus can be, and thinking back to when I was in the corporate world, I would get a bonus based off of our branch meeting our sales goals. And I always thought branch was a funny name just because we were in like, basically they should have called it like territory, based off of our overall territory. We would get, and the cells, and that we would get a bonus. I just thought branch was funny because there were multiple branches, territories that were all housed in one building, one central building. But anyway, I digress. So that's one type based off of, what my territories is doing. And the salespeople within that territory. You can have individual bonuses. And then we also had a yearly corporate bonus based off of the company overall achieving certain goals. And so sometimes we'd have that, sometimes not. Same with, or sometimes we'd achieve it, sometimes not. Same with like the overall territory goals. Bonuses aren't guaranteed. If you don't achieve, neither is commission. If you don't achieve, the minimal level, then you're not going to receive it. So they're definitely in place to be a motivating factor. So with competitions, why do you think that they would be used? So again, competitions are going to be, another motivation tool. I always think of, my dad was over a call center, and they would do once a quarter, like these daily competitions where the executives would be down on the floor with the people they did inside sales, trying to get, new business. And so they do what they call a sales push, where in one single day, they're trying to like really highly push the sales for that day. The success of them is going to be based off of, how much does someone buy into it? What are the rewards? Like sometimes there can be, a yearly competition. Excuse me. The salesperson in the company that makes the most sales, or in a certain, top 5% gets a trip, or gets, a special like dinner with executives, etc. But these two articles really help cover more of not just competition, but motivating factors for salespeople. So in the next video, I'll get into those.